So the U12t is the best IM I have ever heard thus far, and I do think it's worth the price tag of $2,000, $2,000. And yes, even though I absolutely love it, I am selling it. Now let me say, this IM pulled off a feat for me that I never thought would be possible. I owned an HD800 up to this year, a few months ago, had it for about 3-4 years. That was my favorite headphone of all time, and it wasn't until I got the U12t where I thought that I do not need the HD800 anymore. Now, what pushed me to not really love the HD800, even though it was my favorite headphone of all time, and there were plenty of qualities that I did love about it, it's the fact that the highs were just not it anymore. Now, the HD800 was my only headphone for about 2-3 years, and as my only headphone, it's basically what I used all the time for music, for gaming, etc. So when reading reviews about it, I didn't really understand what people were talking about with, oh yeah, you know, this is a great headphone, technicality-wise, soundstage-wise, but the highs were just a little bit too much. And it wasn't until I got my HD6XX, which is the HD650, my 660 and 600s, and eventually my Sony Z7 Mark 1s, I started realizing that, yeah, these highs, yeah, I can definitely see what people are talking about. Although still an amazing headphone, I kept it for another 1.5 years because I couldn't get rid of it purely for the soundstage and the technical aspect when it comes to detail. And then that brought me to U12t. Now, I've wanted these IMs for about 2 years, I want to say, and I was finally able to get the chance to buy them, and I did end up buying them. And they were basically what I wanted an HD800 to be after learning that I love them, but at the same time I don't. The highs were just right. Now, when I had the HD800, which I did sell, I was comparing them, and I have to say the highs on the HD800, in my opinion, does extend a little bit more than the U12Ts, but the U12T had the soundstage, now granted, not as much as the HD800s, I don't think. Now, granted, not as much as the HD800s, I don't think any headphone has as wide and big of a soundstage as the HD800. I could be wrong about that, maybe Susvara does, but I don't have the Susvara, and I don't have an HD800 to compare them. But after using the HD800 so long, I absolutely needed something to compete with that soundstage and compete with that detail. And U12t, even though it's an IEM, has a fantastic soundstage. Huge, vast soundstage, especially for an IEM. Like, does it compete with HD800? No, not necessarily, but the soundstage was so big on the U12t to the point where I do not mind it being smaller than the HD800. It was that big as an HD800 enjoyer that I could get used to the soundstage of the U12t. The soundstage was that good on the U12t. Now, this is coming from memory. I want to say the U12t definitely rivals the HD800 when it comes to detail. So if you're somebody who's looking for a alternative to an HD800 without the insane highs but still have as much detail and an impressive soundstage just in IEM form, I would go with U12t. I would recommend it 100%. It is also a great all-rounder, in a sense a jack of all trades, master of none. When I first listened to it, it was absolutely amazing, and it still is amazing. It's good for all genres, in my opinion. So if you have like the money, the cash to spend on the U12t, $2,000 is quite a lot, but I think it's worth it. Or you can go to the used market and get it for around $1,100 to $1,400. So quite a big discount, nearly half off if you go used. You know, just make sure you're buying from a good seller. I personally recommend Headfi. I know I'm not sponsored by them, but at $2,000, I would recommend them. At $1,000-ish, between $1,100 to $1,400, that's a steal. In my opinion, that is a really good deal. Now, HD800, granted, you can get for $700 to $800 used, so $300 to $600 difference, quite big, but like I said, I would take the U12t over HD800 any day. Now, on to the reason why I am somewhat sadly selling my U12t. Now, like I said, they're a great all-rounder. I love them, especially for metal, and for a while, I was really on a heavy metal kick. I still love heavy metal, but I just don't listen to it as much, and they are the first pair of IEM/headphones that truly amazed me when it came to metal. And because metal was like what I was listening to 99% of the time, I was like, okay, these IEMs are never leaving. But I don't really listen to metal as much, so I feel better about selling them. Granted, I do want an IEM, and the IEM that I am looking at, which I will tell you in a bit, supposedly does good with metal. Now, onto the reason why I am somewhat sadly selling them. And that is because of tonality or amber or whatever whatever you want to call it. If you don't know, they are an all balanced armature IEM. They have 12 balanced armatures to be exact. And balanced armatures, from what I've read, granted I don't have like that many balanced armature IEMs. I really don't have that many IEMs to be honest. Balanced armatures do have a problem, or at least struggles, with tonality and timbre when it comes to naturality. They don't sound as natural as a dynamic driver usually. Now obviously I'm sure the U12t does sound more natural than some dynamic drivers that aren't really tuned very well, and the U12t does a fantastic job at really just sounding fantastic and amazing with everything. But it wasn't until I started listening to my 3DT from Unique Melody that it really started to show. I spent a good session with the 3DT yesterday, about a 6.5 hour listening session, upwards of 7 hours, and to be honest, I haven't had like as much time to really sit down and listen to music, although when I was for like the last month and a half, it would be with the U12t, but every time I listened to them, it just sounded off. And then when I listened to the 3DT last night, it was like, this is very natural, especially compared to the U12t. Now to be honest, the U12t stomps the 3DT in basically every single category and facet that you can imagine. Speed, detail, sound stage, etc, etc, etc. But even though the U12t, from what I've read, is extremely good for a balanced armature when it comes to naturality and tonality and getting rid of that balanced armature sound, it still doesn't fully get rid of it. And when I listened to 3DT, it was heavily apparent of that balanced armature sound. And that's really leading me towards not ever buying a all balanced armature IEM again, or at least until I get this IEM that I am looking at, and I will tell you what it is in just a minute. And the U12t, and I don't want to say this as fact because I'm sure there are better all balanced armature IEMs, I just don't know of them, is in a sense the pinnacle of all balanced armature IEM when it comes to masking that balanced armature sound. Now I'm not saying it's the best IEM in the world ever created, but basically if this is just about as good as an all balanced armature IEM can come to a natural sound tuning, I'm not really wanting to go that route anymore. So the IEM that I am personally looking at right now, and how I started looking into it is because of a recommendation from a friend who did own these IEMs, is the Mest Mark II from Unique Melody. Now I do have their 3DT, which is I believe their cheapest IEM, and I'm absolutely loving it. So I wouldn't mind trying out one of their higher end IEMs just to have a taste of what it's like with their higher end models. So that is something that is pushing me to buy them, because if I already like their cheapest model, maybe I will like their higher end model. Granted, it's not the highest end model. Highest end model from Unique Melody is the Mason FS, which are $6,000, and yeah, I'm not buying that anytime soon. And I'm not just buying it off of his recommendation solely, but it did make me want to look into it, and from what I've read, it seems like a very good IEM for me. It sounds like another good all-rounder, but with more body to the sound, and it's more natural. What really pushed me to be like, alright, I need to buy these IEMs is from a review on Headfi. I don't remember the name, I'm sorry, but they brought up Maury, the VTuber, and absolutely love her, one of my favorite VTubers. He listens to some of her music and was like, this IEM excels with her music. And the band I've been listening to for literally the past like month and a half, 2 months, Dance Gavin Dance. And he said, this IEM is absolutely amazing for music like Dance Gavin Dance. And I'm like, alright, sold, man, sold, you got me. I'm gonna have to absolutely buy this. And I am really looking forward to it because it seems like the IEM that I've always wanted. Obviously, I don't know until I try it, but the U12t was absolutely amazing, was an experience of itself. And don't get me wrong, I am super glad that I did buy them and did try them, because like I said, I wanted them for like 2 years. So it's definitely something that I was like, alright, I need to try before I die. Definitely was not a bad experience with them. Like I said, I can fully recommend them for $2,000, or you can buy on the used market and get it for a lot cheaper. And honestly, if it really wasn't for me not liking the tonality of balanced armatures and preferring the naturality of dynamic drivers, I would probably keep the U12t forever. They are that amazing of an IEM, and it's just that one little flaw, I guess you could say, and I don't even want to call it a flaw, and some people do prefer that sound signature of a balanced armature versus dynamic or electrostatic, planar, etc. So, is it really a flaw? overall? No. But is it something that I personally enjoy anymore? Not really. And if you're in the audio hobby, I would 100% recommend trying it at least, maybe at an audio show. And if you're a little bit tight on cash, buy it on the used market. If you don't like it, sell it for about the same price that you bought them. And I know you can say that's stupid. That's just one little thing and you absolutely love them. Like, why would you get rid of them over one little thing? And it just comes down to purely enjoyment. So that's really what it is. I don't enjoy them nearly as much as I used to, and that is pushing me to try something new. There are so many different IEMs and headphones out there where if you're not enjoying something as much as you used to, why would you not try something new when there's so much stuff out there that you might enjoy a lot more? And it might just be the thing you were always looking for. I want to say thank you guys so much for watching. I know this is a different style video. I usually just do the Call of Duty cut comms, but I did want to talk about the U12t while I still had it. And again, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day, night, evening, whatever it is for you, and I'll see you in the next one.